Today's movie is a very solid action, fantasy, and fantasy movie. It was produced in the year 2001, but it is one of the strongest films in existence. But before we start the movie, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel if you like it. Let's go. Today's movie begins with a woman waking up terrified because of a dream she had. After that, we learn that this is a fortune teller, and she wakes up the other fortune tellers with her and tells them something sweet. We know that the dream consists of a group of people locked in a cage, and their name remains the Titans. There remains a reversed person, and his name remains King Hebron. He strikes them with the bow of Ypres in order to free them from their imprisonment. We understand from this dream that King Hebron is looking for the bow of Ypres to free the Titans, and in order to know the story of these Titans, we will go back in time for millions of years, before humans even flourished on Earth. Of course, the intuitions of this movie are not true because of what we will say now. The important thing is that the story begins when they were a race of immortals residing in the sky. A war broke out between them in which many immortals were killed. Of course, with every war there are victors and losers. Those who were victorious were distinguished as they are in heaven, and those who were defeated were imprisoned in a mountain called Tartarus and were called the Titans. What we saw in the dream of knowledge. The only thing that can free the Titans is the Ark of Cyprus. But the problem is that this bow was lost when the burning ended. Of course, whoever reaches it will use it to liberate this army of Titans. This is what Hebron is trying to do now. There will certainly be a very strong war between them and the army of the immortals again. We will return again to the house of Arafat. The one who had the dream tells them that they must leave this monastery because of Hebroni, to the monastery, and he will surely reach them to find out where the course is. Of course, the Arafat is afraid, and they actually take each other and leave the monastery. As soon as they move, Hebron arrives, and they fear the monks in the monastery. We know that the priest follows the army of the immortals. When they ask Hebron about the fortune tellers, he tells him that he does not know anything about them, so Hebron speaks to him and tells him that the army of the immortals will not be of any use to him. The evidence is that when his wife and children all died from the disease, none of the immortals could do anything for them. He also tells him that he will reach the Ark and free the Titans, and that he will also take revenge on the immortals. But the priest also refuses to tell him where the fortune tellers are. He burns the priest. We go to another place in Greece, on a small island, to Bela Assisi and his coach. He is training him, and we know that he is the one who raised him since he was little. We also know that Cisseus does not have a father. The relationship between Cisseus and his coach is very good. When he finishes his training, he goes to the monastery and meets her so they can go together. But he notices that his mother is confused, so he asks her and tells her what happened, but she says she's a little tired and doesn't want to say anything to him. We know that the nobles harassed her because she had an illegitimate daughter. Who is Cisseus? They talk to each other for a while and are afraid to sleep, but after a while they wake up terrified by the sound of urinating on their island. We find that the kingdom's army has arrived on the island, and of course the kingdom's army is not Hebron's army, because Hebron defected from them a long time ago and formed an army on his own. The important thing is that they gather the people of the island and inform them that if they leave, we will occupy the monastery of Arafat, and he is coming to their island to occupy it. It's because, as we all know, Hebron is searching for the bow to liberate the Titans' army. Of course, they gather the people on the island to let them go anywhere else, so that they do not get away from Hebron and his army. Because he was coming to the island, but Hasios is upset because he and his mother have no other place to go. But he has to agree, because there is no other solution. As soon as he starts to move, the soldiers prevent him and inform him that he will not be able to walk from the island today, because he is from the poor class, and he will have to walk tomorrow with people of the same class as him. But of course, Hesius becomes very upset and begins to fight the soldiers with great courage. He is also able to insult a soldier whose name is Lysander, until the commander of the soldiers comes to him and guides him and orders him to leave the soldier with him. And he will leave a group of soldiers like this with the people on the island to protect them. Cisseus agrees and leaves the soldier, but of course the commander becomes upset with the soldier because of what happened to him. He expels him from his army, but of course he decides that this will no longer happen, and he still wants to take revenge on Cisseus. Night comes and the soldier kills 2 soldiers and flees the island. We go to Cisseus's teacher, and while he is walking, he feels a strange movement in the place and feels that someone is there with him. He quickly changes his appearance, and we discover that he is like the leader of the Immortals, but he has changed his appearance and has been living on Earth for a long time. The person who disappeared and his daughter got a voucher, so she spoke to her father and asked him why he left them and lived with humans on Earth. He tells her that he is sitting on the ground to train Cisseus because he knew that he was a strong and brave person when he was young. She also asks him why they can't fight like crazy, so he responds to her and tells her that they will not interfere in a war with humans as long as the army of the Titans is imprisoned, and they cannot go down and fight with them unless the Titans come out of their prison. That's why he trains Cisseus, so that he is the only one who can confront Hebron and his army. We return to Sander, and he has gone to Hebron to join his army, but Hebron is sitting and making fun of him because he is a traitor and left his army and left for him. Then a priest brings him Bacon Hebro, who will arrest him and tell him, "What do you know about this person?" They know that this priest has the ability to communicate with the fortune tellers, so Hebron asks him to communicate with them in order to know their whereabouts. But the priest had a quick tongue, so that he could not speak to him. But Hyperion also tells him that he still has the ability to communicate with them, and that he will not be released unless he knows the whereabouts of those who knew him, and then he will return to the traitorous soldier Sandra and agree to join his army. But on one condition, he leaves someone who cannot have children, and this of course remains for any soldier who wants to join his army. Sandro agrees and sends Hebron to his monster, who is responsible for this matter, and he finishes talking. The next day comes. He arrives at Cisseus's island and begins killing the soldiers on the island. He also began to capture the women who were present until Cici was somewhat surprised. Naturally, he became very angry and began to fight them, killing a large number of them. But unfortunately, Cisseus alone will not be able to do anything, so the soldiers are on him and take him prisoner as well. Hebron comes and kills his mother in front of his eyes in a very difficult scene. He takes Cisseus and throws him with the slaves. Then he occupies the palace, and Cisseus works with them until they finish their work, so they go to the place like this in a water pool to drink from it. But Cisseus remains so tired that he sleeps without drinking water. The fortune tellers are present in this place, and they are preparing for one of them to touch Cisseus. She sees a strange vision that he is victorious over Hyperol, so she goes to one of the prisoners who are there and tells him that they must escape at night from Gabriel's soldiers and that they must take Cisseus with them, and she learns from him that he is very tired and has not had a drink for a long time, and that he may even die. So you go to the fortune teller to drink it yourself and tell the person that they should encourage a life because he is a very important person. Night comes, and we find 2 slaves sitting together. We learn from them that the real fortune teller will be one of the 4 who were arrested. Only one of them knows the location of the Ypres Arch. The rest of them do not know their whereabouts. Of course, no one knows that completing one of the 4 will be the true fortune teller. Night comes, and Arafat attacks the soldiers, and they quickly flee. But 3 of the fortune tellers are arrested again, and Hebron comes and asks them where the course is, and one of them is the true fortune teller. But of course no one speaks, and he becomes so fanatical that he kills one of his soldiers. We know that the one who escaped is the real fortune teller. The only one who knows about Hebron's order is one of his soldiers named Mondman, and he is a very strong person. He orders him to go out and look for the fortune teller who ran away, and not to come back until she is with him. After that, we go to the people who escaped, Cisseus, Sybil, and 2 slaves. They would have been able to take with them the priest who cut out his tongue. They talk to each other and decide that they will steal a boat and escape from the island. They actually escape, and as soon as they reach the boat, they are surprised by Moondragon and Hebron's soldiers. They prayed for them, and that they would be close to salvation, that they would be saved, and that they would take the knowledge and return. At the same time, Asena and her brother are very upset that they cannot kill Hebron and his soldiers in order to rid Cisseus and those with him of their evil. But of course her brother is afraid of their father's cock and prevents her from going down. Because of course, the army of the Immortals has no use interfering in any war with humans as long as the mighty soldiers are imprisoned. But they have someone named Bossidi with them, and he is the one in charge of the seas. He decides that he will go down by any means. In fact, he descends with his Salassian spear and creates a very powerful wave in the sea, through which he is able to eliminate all of Hyperium's soldiers. Cisseus, Sibyl, and those with them are able to escape at the last minute. After they reach the place where they will sit, they begin to talk to each other, and the fortune teller begins to tell him about the vision that he saw when he first stepped on his foot at the pond. She tells him that she saw someone dead, but she doesn't know him. It is in the shroud, and I also saw him with a cup of Hebron, and that he was collaborating with Hebron. That's why you agreed with the slaves that they would smuggle you with them in order to prevent the alliance that would happen between you and Hyperoid. But he tells her that it is impossible for this person to be allied with Zat, and that he wants to take revenge on him, because he was the one who killed his mother. So she asks him about his mother and where she was buried, and she tells him whether she is buried in the island's temple or not. So he tells her no. She informs him that he must go and take his mother's body and bury her in the island's temple. Then we will see what happens. Then we move to a place, and it will be the name of the production. This is the place where the three are present, and Hebron is there, and he is with him, and of course he is still alive. He tells him about everything that happened and that he saw Al-Arfa running away with Cisseus. Then he learns that the fortune teller took this person with her to show him the location of the course. He orders the monster with him to go after her and kill her as soon as he knows where the bow is. He orders a man to wait here if they come back again to liberate the rest of Arafat. He will go to the place where the army of the Titans is imprisoned, and he will wait for them there until they accept the bow, because as soon as they return the bow to him, he frees them immediately. We move to the island, and Cisseus arrives with the oracle who is with him to take his mother and bury her in the temple. After he finishes, he finds a large rock that looks very strange. He has this feeling that he wants to break it, and in fact, as soon as he breaks it, he is surprised by the presence of the cone inside it. He is very impressed by it, and when he finds it, an arrow blossoms out of the void and shines, and he is very impressed by the cone. But at that time, Haber's monster has arrived, and a very strong battle is taking place between them. But Cece is able to defeat the monster and also cut its neck. After he finishes, he leaves the temple. But he is surprised that the Hebrew soldiers on the island also killed one of the slaves who were with him, Wazran II and the fortune teller. He quickly uses the bow 4 times and produces 4 arrows, shooting the 4 soldiers at once. Every arrow knew its exact path, but the problem is that he gets tired once and faints. So you take the place, and when it wakes up, you discover that the knife that was with the monster is poisoned. She was the one who did that to him, but she fixed it. They take and move quickly to go to Mount Titans to confront Hebron and his soldiers. But they are walking past the temple where Arafat was, but unfortunately they are surprised that they were all killed in a very brutal way. They are also surprised that Hebrew soldiers are present in the place and are stealing from Cisseus the Kos, and he arrives and tries to get rid of Cisseus and those with him. But he reaches Alice with his raindrops and finishes with everyone in Sanya. They also know that the Ark is about to reach Hyperion and that they must act and stop it. But when he arrives, he brings out a fireball and strikes 1,000 very strong blows because he disobeyed orders and helped, and he speaks to Cisseus and informs him that this war must be feared alone. He must also defeat Hyperion before the Titans emerge, because if this happened, a very powerful battle would occur that would destroy the Immortals and the mighty. But unfortunately, the soldier who stole the bow arrived at Hebron and told him what happened, and he also knew that he saw the army of the Immortals fighting with Sis. As soon as he finishes talking, Hybrim kills him, because of course no one knows that the Immortals are fighting with humans, and the soldiers are starting to become afraid. Then he brings the traitorous soldier and asks him to tell him everything about Cisseus. So the soldier tells him everything about Cisseus, and also the story of his mother, and that there was a group of criminals who assaulted her a long time ago, and that is why she became pregnant. and since then, the entire island has been treating them as a monster. We move to the island, and Cisseus arrives with the oracle who is with him to take his mother and bury her in the temple. After he finishes, he finds